Hi, my name's Kevin McQuillan, and the following pre-recorded conversations are my attempt to make sense of the human experience through the practice of yoga. I hope you enjoy. All right, good morning, everyone. Here we are, Peace Retreat, Costa Rica, January 2022. Wow, it's a lot to say out loud. And it is your day 7. For those that are in the teacher training, day 7. Wild, a week it has been. We've been together. And soon all of this will be over. We mentioned early on, the week is, the first week is, ooh, what's going on here? Let me feel these people out. I don't know if I can trust them, or I don't even know if I like them. It's a different environment.
That still may be true.
Yeah, still may be true. What's going on here? And so there's a sussing out experience. And how deeply do I go in? Feel it out a bit. And the second week goes by very quickly. We know that from experience. And so if you're sitting on the fence, the idea is to get off the fence, because soon this will be over. And if you leave the same way you came, what a terrible decision. Because that just teaches you that you're not a student. You're the know-it-all. Draped in your past and your knowledge, your information, your arrogance. That's how it goes. And so it's a reflection of your studentship. You can come here and stay the same. Why would you do that? In some ways, we're fighting for that, to stay the same, stay the same, stay the same. But somewhere inside of us knows that that's not best for us, and it's not best for us. Learning is best for us. Taking risks, being parts of adventures, and these kinds of things. And so there's this desire to grow. And if we're not feeding that, nurturing that part of us, it's a deadened experience. And all you do is have to look at your life. There's a part of your life somewhere that it's deadened. It's a deadened experience. There's no life in it. And it's fixed. There's a fixed mindset that's holding that area of your life hostage. And how important it is to move into that, because if not, it will grow as it does. Anything we feed grows. And that's no different with what's happening upstairs, the mindset, these mechanisms. It's not just the mindset, it's a mechanism, which is you. It's built into you. And it's not going anywhere. It has its own personality that comes out every once in a while, speaks to you. It has its own unique way of listening and has its own behaviors attached to it. And that's what we're attempting to do here, is to build out other mechanisms. Understand the mechanisms that haunt you and torment you, and build out other mechanisms. And so you're putting yourself together, and that's the theme of today. The attempt to put yourself together. And in some ways you know how to do that, in other ways you have no idea how to do that. And that's the importance of being a student. To allow people in. To allow others to contribute to you. That takes a tremendous amount of trust for that to occur. Significant. And if you ask yourself, there's parts of you that don't trust. That's a good, honest answer. It's like, okay, what do I not trust? What you'll notice yourself for sure, but then also other people. If you don't trust people, the chance of you letting them in is really going to be quite unlikely. And then nobody has the capacity to contribute to you. And what's left is you and your own devices, most likely feeling uncontributed to and alone in some ways, which is a lonely ride, with all the excuses of staying the same. And so what we're attempting to do through this program is to give you an opportunity to put yourself together in a very unique and particular way, in ways you don't necessarily want to put yourself together, because it's painful. But it's like how to pull into the whole self. That's the attempt here. All parts of ourself, together, working together. Because the tendency is like, no, I don't like that part of myself. No, not that part. Oh, okay, yeah, you're allowed in. No. And the opposite of putting ourselves together is falling apart. And sometimes we have to do that as well. We have to fall apart to put ourselves back together. And if you think of the yoga practice, that's the attempt. That's the attempt. That is the practice. We put ourselves together in a particular pose. I don't know, you stand on your head, or I don't know, whatever you do, downward facing dog, these kinds of things. Fall apart, create another pose. Fall apart, create another pose. And that's the practice. It's a beautiful practice. We don't have to do that off the mat, though. Allow ourselves to fall apart. There's too much meaning attached to it. And it's too painful at times. But it's necessary and must be encouraged. Yes, fall apart. And if you're willing to do that in the presence of other people within community, it's a beautiful thing. Because you don't have to hold all of that yourself. There's other people around that are willing and able to support if you were to allow it. You're seeing that here. Some of the things you're speaking about, riveting for sure. Not so pleasant to say out loud, but there's relief at times when you've been saying things out loud, telling on yourself. It's like, okay, now it's out. It's out of this. It's out here. And there's a lot of acceptance in that. Remaining in silence, and silent, is just so violent in so many different ways. Because that's how we punish ourselves. Where shame and fear have gripped us and will tear us apart, shred us from the inside out. And you know what I'm speaking about, again, if you're honest with yourself. Staying in silence, being silent, is a tough grind. And so there's some distinctions up on the board about falling apart. Encapsulated in fear and shame. Strategies and deception. We spoke about that last night. Two strategies we spoke of is people-pleasing and perfectionism. It's like, which one are you, predominantly? Are you a pleaser or a perfectionist? That is a strategy of deception. It's a protection strategy. I'm not safe. I have to pretend that I'm this, so perhaps I can feel safe somewhere in my life. And so it's a strategy of deception that keeps the illusion alive. It's a hell of a thing to prop up constantly. It's a big lift. It's a heavy lift to hold that posture consistently and constantly, especially because it consistently fails. Only to pick it back up and put it back on until it collapses again. It creates chaos and confusion, ultimately loneliness and self-disgust. And that one's difficult to hold. Self-loathing, self-disgust. But when things fail, that's waiting for you. And it's in the conversation, it's in the language, it's in the listening. And if you can get your language and listening, you have something that offers you value. Because that's where transformation lives, is in listening. It's in language. And to pull ourselves out of self-disgust is very difficult. Because the disgust response can be so strong. I'm disgusted with this, and if I'm disgusted with this, I'm disgusted with this. And most people miss how strong their disgust response is, especially in relationship. The roll of the eyes, whatever these behaviors come out, it's like you're a disgusting person, and I want you to know it. And in my experience, plenty of people are unconscious to their disgust response, and it comes out. And people don't miss that. People do not miss those behaviors. It's impossible to miss those behaviors because they're so strong and the message is so stiff. And it's something to pay attention to. That's a reflection of what's happening here. Here, here. Less out, more here. And ideally you have good people around you saying, hey, smarten up. You don't get to treat me like that. Pull it together. And if you don't, you want people like that around. You definitely want people like that around, that have the courage to speak up and push against you, not enable you and baby you, or terrified of you, or avoid you, or whatever. You don't want those kinds of people around. And ultimately, it leads into suffering collapse. Suffering and collapse. We collapse in on ourselves. And as I've been speaking, sometimes we don't recover. And so there's a particular pathology we're attempting to give you access to. And it's yours, uniquely you, where you come from, and how you've put yourself together over the years, your lifetime, and how your choices have shaped you. You. Uniquely you. There's nobody like you. Isn't that so weird? How original you are in so many different ways? It's crazy. And how beautiful that is. And if we're able to put ourselves together in a particular way, we can actually share that with people. And what a contribution. That I'm unique, I'm original, I have plenty to say and share, and I wish to do that with you. Maybe I'll teach you something. Maybe you'll teach me something. That's pretty unique. And there's no end in that. There's a lot of possibility. And we've got a posture for that. I'm going to attempt to share and to put some of our conversations and talk together through my life, and attempt to share some of my pathology, and maybe putting this together will help in some fashion. And I don't know if I've done this before, so we'll see how this goes. What I noticed when I look back at my past and the household I grew up in, there was a tremendous amount of focus on doing, and doing things just so. Just so. And the tendency is that there was criticism around. Criticism of keeping the house just so, looking just so, doing things just so. And so we looked a particular way. That was the idea. And so the criticism left me feeling I couldn't do enough. I couldn't be enough. I wasn't enough. Over a span of time, that's the presupposition, that's the belief that I called forth. There's criticism. It's like, okay, I can't do that right. No, okay, I can't do that right. Okay, I can't do that right. I must not be doing enough. And over a span of time, that criticism felt like punishment. It was like a punishing experience. That's how I received it. And that punishment left me feeling afraid. And one of the strategies that I adopted was to hide. To hide, that was my protection. Oh, this is so interesting. Whew. I just feel these flashes of memories coming to me. It's so interesting. To the degree in which I would hide. I would leave. I would just like kind of walk away. And I wouldn't tell anybody. And I was young. I would just kind of like leave. That was my way of just like evaporating out in space. And in that, I just like walk out in the neighborhood and stuff, not tell anybody. And of course my family was, where the hell's Kevin? And then there'd be like this search party out there. But that was my way of escaping, my way of protecting myself. And that was one strategy, and the memory just came to me. So fascinating. I built a fort in my closet. I remember that, and I spent so much time there. This little fort in my closet. It's so fascinating that it just came to me. It's like, wow, how much time I spent in this little fort in my closet where I could hide. Soundproofed it. It's like that was my space where I could be alone. Whew. And comfortable. And how I taught myself that being alone is the safest bet for me. That being around people was not safe. There's too much criticism in and around the space, and so best that I be on my own, and all the strategies that I had to do that. And how I taught myself to hide in plain sight. And one of the ways I used to do that was I wouldn't speak. I was shy. That's one of the strategies I adopted, very young. My older sister would speak and communicate for me. It's like bizarre. If I didn't speak and if I played shy, people would just kind of leave me alone. And there's lots of excuses. It's like, oh, he's shy. Oh, he's shy. And I played that for as long as I could play that. But hiding in plain sight left me feeling alone. Nobody was there I could count on. I couldn't count on myself. I couldn't count on other people. And so I felt alone in that experience. And that manifested into frustration because everything was a confrontation. It's like, family, confrontation. I don't know, going to church, whoa, confrontation, so many people. Go to school, confrontation. Like everywhere was a confrontation. And the way to mitigate feeling afraid, not safe, this frustration that was coming up, I taught myself to perfect. That's the strategy, another strategy that I adopted. If I was perfect, then there'd be no criticism. If there's no criticism, then I'd feel safe. And so there's a lot of focus on doing, being good at things, whether it was in the household, whether it was in other ways where instead of criticism, I was actually getting accolades. And if I was getting accolades, then this is good. This feels way better than criticism. And so that's how things get reinforced. The pathology was passed on to me, and I perfected that pathology. And the perfectionism is a strategy that consistently fails. It collapses over and over and over again. And then I can see the arc of experience in my life of, okay, shy doesn't work. And so then I'll act out. Leave me alone being shy, I'll act out. Leave me alone here. And it's like I mentioned, I think yesterday, it's like I get suspended and expelled from school. It's perfect. Then I don't have to be around anybody. It's amazing. And then how that manifested into being unpredictable and violent. Perfect strategy. I'm not safe, and so best you be over there. One of the outcomes of that is sitting in prison. In a cell on my own. It's like perfect, right? Nobody around, just me. How that manifested into be a workaholic, working. Always had the excuse, no, can't do that, I have to do this. No, can't do this, I got to do that. The outcome, me being on my own. I remember that when I was in Canada, I had this property and my family would come in from out of town and stuff, and it's like, I'd be out in the tractor, mowing the lawn, and things like that instead of spending time with my family. It was like so bizarre when I started to pick these things up. And how much I refused to be with other people so I could be with myself, and the consequences attached to that were heavy. The collapse of self, the collapse of relationship, the collapse of opportunity, the collapse of possibility, all the things that were collapsing. And eventually I was collapsing. Panic attacks, these kinds of things, just intense, holding all that and trying to keep it together. And it was too much. This was too much for this. It's too much. Constantly overextending. Be perfect, be perfect, be perfect, be perfect, be perfect, be perfect. I can barely say the word. Be perfect. Threat, you're better off on your own. Threat, you're better off on your own. And that's some of the pathology for me. And that's one of the benefits of you being here in this program, is to start to understand where you came from and how you put yourself together, because once you have it, your life makes sense. I'm not saying it's going to feel very good, because it doesn't. But at least you have something to work with. It's like, okay, this makes sense. Wow, I make sense. In some ways, I make sense. And how unusual that is. And from this place, you can make different kinds of decisions for yourself moving forward. And decisions that support change that you know you need to make. Otherwise, what are we attached to? Our past, our history? Being the scared, alone child, which is in all of us for sure, that needs to be nurtured. And the only way to nurture and to heal is to go places you certainly do not want to go. And that is the path. It's the path. There's no denying that. That is the pathway to healing. It's curative, it's redemptive. And that's the attempt here through this program, to give you those opportunities. And you always have the decision, will you take it? Will you take it? Will you take it? And we're encouraging you to take it, because soon this will be over. And you think, oh, I'll just do it at home a week from now. It's like, good luck with that. Some of the things in your life that you have not been addressing have been around for a long time. A long time. And so put yourself together here in a way that you can confront that with great courage. And to do it with other people that appreciate you, care for you, want the best for you, because that lives here in this community. You've been designing that for the last 7 days. And that is now undeniable. See what's happening here? I hope you can see. We are eliminating all the excuses that you have. We're pulling them out. And ideally, you start to see them, how many excuses you have, why not to do what you know you need to do. You no longer have the excuse that you don't have the opportunity, you don't have the skill set, you don't have the practice, that people are unsafe, people don't have you, they don't have your back, they're against you. None of that's true here. And so this is, in part, the practice. Fall apart to put yourself together. Fall apart, put yourself together. And these practices support that. That's the brilliance of these wonderful practices. And how to put yourself together is also on the board. Reveal your vulnerabilities, damn it. Reveal them. The very thing you don't want to do. But how wonderful it is to reveal your vulnerabilities. Areas in your life where you think you're weak. And you are. It's like, and? You're weak because you're underdeveloped. You have no skill. It's like, okay. And that's a good starting point. And that admission goes a long way. Where you can get access to your values and practice your values. And that's what we're speaking about and have been speaking about. Create the space to get aligned to your values and practice your values. Where there's order and clarity. There's access to trust and respect that props up relationship. Trust and respect props up relationship. 2 pillars. Without trust and respect, there's not much relationship. This is the work for each of us. It's how to trust ourselves and respect ourselves enough that we can actually have a relationship to ourselves that's meaningful, that offers us value, where we can actually contribute in a way in which we know we are designed to do. And perhaps most importantly, it gives us access to our health. Whew. And that is a big deal. And health makes up a lot, but there's something like intimacy and immunity and how they support each other. If you have intimacy in your life, that connection that comes from intimacy, we have a tendency of making better decisions for ourselves, which supports our immunity. Yeah, I have the energy to, I don't know, go to the yoga practice. I have energy to spend time cooking a meal for myself. Going out with friends, and, I don't know, being outside, these kinds of things. When we're feeling deflated and depleted, it's like, no, I'm not going to yoga. I'm going to eat that bag of chips because it's convenient. I'm going to sleep for 14 hours a day, binge watch Netflix, which has an impact on immunity. And so the more that we can pursue intimacy, the tendency is we make better decisions for ourselves. So your pathology matters. So put yourself together as clearly as you possibly can here. And the question for you is, what do you feel you need to put together? What area of your life do you feel you need to put together in a different way? Relationship to something, to someone? Anybody have a thought around this? Yeah. Where do you feel you need to put yourself together or fall apart? Where is this area of your life? Who's got something to say about that? It's a riveting question. And the idea is, as we admit these things, it's like stay in them. Explore the opening, and this is the opening, and that's the benefit of vulnerability. And that's the brilliance of these practices. We start moving into these areas. What lives in that is it's the very thing we want, we've been pursuing for so long. It's nestled right into our relationships right now. And so we can get outside of these strategies and stop proving and performing. It's like, see me. Yes, I'm this person. I'm not that person. All the games and tricks that we play to get attention. And just like, I'm here. I'd like to be with you. You know, it's like, how can we just simply be in relationship without all the complications, which is difficult at times, but worth fighting for. All right. So what's happening this morning is we'll move into practice. Take a risk this morning through your practice. Are you ready, Ashley? Kriyas are coming your way. Use these practices to fall apart. And then in all of that, you get to put yourself together in a particular way. Much more aligned to your values, your intentions, what's important to you in your life. Got to fight for that space sometimes. Do that in a responsible way through practice. And that's what's in front of you. 5 amazing human beings will reveal themselves to us today. You'll be teaching the class, which is unbelievable. And so to use your practices to set yourself up for that. You know, you could be in your Kriyas fretting, oh my God, I don't know how this is going to go, oh my God. It's like, notice what you're practicing. Meditating, like gripping onto yourself. So just keep noticing the choices you make that lead you into something, and something you find meaningful. Teaching, otherwise you wouldn't be here. So practice wisely. That's the attempt. We're going to move ourselves along onto the mat. We go. Thanks for your listening.